Welcome back, guys. This is Desktop Strategist, and this is another video of World of Tanks. Today, we're going to be talking about a personal favorite. This is the Centurion 7-1. Easily one of my favorite tanks in the game. Maybe my favorite tank in the game. I personally love this tank, and I love this line. See, I have the Centurion 1, the Cromwell as well. I've contemplated getting the Comet back as well because the Comet's not a bad tank. But these are the ones that I specifically love. Now, I've already researched the 4202, but when I'm going to buy it. See, right now, my clan is going through the campaign, and so that 1 million credits you see up in there, that is actually necessary for, well, maintaining my gold rounds during the clan wars. Anyways, the Centurion 7-1 is an exceptional tank for a few reasons. One of them is this. This is a tier 10 gun on a tier 9 medium tank. There are a couple of tier 9 medium tanks that get tier 10 guns. The ones I PTA, the Z120, and I don't think anything else in the tier 9 medium area gets a tier 10 gun. All the tier 9 heavy tanks, they get they get tier 10 guns. But most of the tier 9 medium tanks are stuck with tier 9 guns. Like, for instance, the predecessor to the mighty E50M, it actually only has a tier 9 gun, a very good one, but still only a tier 9 gun. So the main problem with this gun is just that it doesn't fire very fast. The reload on the Centurion 7-1 without Brothers in Arms, as you can see I'm still training it up, is about 10 seconds, which is not bad. Not bad. If you were to take that into a Clan Wars and use, if you're at a tier 9 tournament or something, actually, it wouldn't be Clan Wars, and you were to put, say, premium consumables on here and you had Brothers in Arms, then you would probably actually be looking at an 8-point something reload, which is pretty good. But 10.12 seconds, if I remember correctly. Basically, it's a pretty good tank, actually. The hull armor it's decent. It's 120. The hull is not built to bounce anything. In fact, the only part on the hull where you can ever expect to bounce a single thing is this. Because your hull armor may be only 50 here, but you do have tracks. And the nice thing about allied tracks is that they generally tend to cover most of your tank, i.e. like with the T-34, which just has, yeah. But this thing can actually side scrape. One of its main advantages is that it actually has very good gun declination. You can basically turn your gun about like this. You can turn and aim straight down there. Overall, that is very helpful because it allows you to be hull down, which is one of the strengths of this tank. Now, its turret is actually weaker by a slight bit than the Centurion 1's turret. However, it also has better hull because it's got almost twice as much as the 76 that the Centurion 1 had. Although technically, this isn't the Centurion 1, it's actually the Centurion 3, but I digress. So yeah, you basically one of the strong points of this turret is that if they hit you in this area, the chances of them basically not doing damage to your tank are actually pretty good. The other thing is the horsepower to weight ratio. If I remember correctly, the horsepower to weight ratio on this tank is pretty high. I think it was like a 17 or something. But the only problem is that it has a top speed of 40 kilometers an hour. This comes from British tank doctrine, which meant that British tanks were generally supposed to not go that much faster than their infantry were advancing. And so they put governors on their tanks so that they wouldn't go fast. Otherwise, the British Centurion tanks would actually probably be pretty fast because they all have very good horsepower to weight ratio. In fact, the Centurion 7-1 has the best horsepower to weight ratio of any of them because it has the most powerful engine. I think the 4202 actually has a slightly weaker engine. Not even going to be a actually 4202 might have a better one. Nope, 4202 has a weaker engine by about a of weight, but it's also the lightest one of all of them, weighing about 40 tons, whereas this one weighs 45 and this one of course weighs 52. So basically all around this tank is a pretty good tank. It gets up to that 40 kilometers an hour, which is not very fast, but it gets up to it and it stays there even in rough terrain. There you go. I was actually wrong. It's not 10.12. It's 10.13. See, the rate of fire is 5, and the nice thing about this gun, because it's a tier 10 gun, it gets 268 penetration with armor-piercing rounds, and 390 damage is also pretty nice, as well as an accuracy that would put the German Tiger II to shame at .32. That is ridiculously good. And then the aiming time is a 2.3, which, if memory serves, that's not too much. No, it's a little bit off of the E50M, but the E50M and the Leopard 1 are the most accurate. Well, E50M, the Leopard 1, and I recently found out the E25 are the most accurate tanks in the game, because they all have .3 accuracy and about a 2-second aiming time. This one, though, it's not bad. It really isn't bad. And I believe it's also a little bit more accurate simply because the British and American tanks have good stabilizers on their tanks. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into battle. I don't think I can close that down. Interestingly enough, we actually managed to get a tier 9 match, which is pretty rare. Which is pretty rare in a tier 9. Most times you'll end up in tier 10, but there are the occasional times that you will be in a tier 9 match, just like this one, and be happy. Happen next match. So, as we can see, we've got, well, the match is it's gonna require some work to be able to pull this one off, but it's not impossible.
Time to roll out.
Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. See the British gun depression at work there. It's very good gun depression. It really helps out. So it doesn't look like we've got too much of an enemy presence up there, but we don't want to be pushing up because the only ones over here are me and this Tiger II. And as good as Centurion 7-1 is, pushing flanks by yourself is never fun. I believe I saw a tree down just over there, which would imply that there is more than just... Oh! Well then. As you can see, our GW Tiger actually just blasted that T-54, and their artillery attempted to do that to our... Oh, went a little too far. Yep. That was not a smart idea. you can see, one of the strengths of the Centurion coming out here. Oh dear. Sorry, Tiger 2. It is my bad. That shell bounced. I got hit. Alright, so we got this tortoise over here. One of the things about British tank destroyers that I simply don't like is that the armor on the side of their guns is not good, to put it simply. Now, of course, if you can manage to hit their mantlet, then good luck penetrating. But if you've got the ability to shoot, like, say, about like that, then you can penetrate their armor most times. Gotta be careful that I don't get hurt by that M53-5. So as you can see, the British turret is really doing its job here. It's making it very difficult for this, and he managed to damage my gun there. I probably shouldn't have pulled out so soon. As you can see, he switched to armor-piercing composite rigid, which basically makes penetrating my armor child's play for him. So I'm not going to want to be sitting there. I didn't think that I was actually out far enough for him to shoot me. But I'm going to have to shift my focus, get to a different spot. So as you can see, there's this, and one of the very important skills to get whenever you're running a Centurion tank is to get repairs. If you get repairs, then it doesn't really matter when you get shot, because you'll be able to repair in about 4.5 seconds. That's usually how long it takes me anyways. And unfortunately, we've got this IS-6 pushing towards us. Pretty sure he's actually looking my general direction. Let's see. We didn't even scratch them. As you can see, the enemy forces are really starting on hard on our position, and probably not going to make it. Well, that was unfortunate. And it seems our enemy T. I hate close range combat because that always happens. You always end up shooting them in the turret because their gun's in the way. Yep. And the IS-6 killed me. Oh well. That wasn't a bad match. Well, I guess that really depends on how you define a bad match, because as you can see, it's not going extremely well for our team. However, on the flank that we were on, it actually went fairly well. Aside from the fact that the Tiger 2 was gone by the time I died. Still, not a bad match at all. Not a bad match at all. So, let's go ahead and go back to the It really does its job. As you can see, that tortoise even, he had to switch to his armor-piercing, he had to switch to his APCR rounds to even be able to try and penetrate my turret. And of course, once he did, that was my fault for not backing off sooner. I actually probably could have taken that T-34 if he hadn't penetrated my turret so many times. But in general, very good tank, very solid. It doesn't have that many weak points. I'll go ahead and just look at the Centurion 1. It's close enough. Fortunately, our Centurion 7-1 still in battle. It probably will be for a little while. Go ahead and get that skill. It's a very useful skill. Whenever you're driving a British tank, one of the things is that because they are all pretty accurate, and they usually have a limiter, Actually, one of the ones that doesn't in this game is the Cromwell medium tank, which is capable of going 64, which is as fast as a lot of scouts at that tier. In fact, I think it's faster than a couple of them. But Cromwell is pretty fast. But on the other ones, you are going to want to increase your accuracy while moving, which means never get a GLD. A GLD is a waste of space on a Centurion main battle tank. And yes, there's a main battle tank. The game likes to classify them as mediums. None of the tanks in this line, aside from the tier 1, are actually mediums. See, you have the Cromwell, which is classified as a medium tank. It is actually a cruiser tank, which the basic definition of a cruiser tank is very light armored, very fast, and a very nice gun. The gun on the Cromwell is actually one of the best in tier 6, at least for medium tanks. And the Centurion Mark 1, originally it was actually classified as a cruiser tank. However, later it was reclassified as a main battle tank. The Centurion is actually the first main battle tank in existence. So that gives it a special place in my heart. I like main battle tanks. And Centurion 7.1 is really playing off of that. It's a main battle tank. It's still classified as a medium tank, but, you know, it's really not possible for World of Tanks to classify everything properly unless they were to, well, not have a proper classification system in of itself. Because they'd have medium tanks with heavy tanks, with cruiser tanks, with main battle tanks. Like, for instance, the Super Pershing, which is classified as a medium tank because you have tanks like the T-34 and T-32 at that same tier. In reality, the Pershing tank was actually classified, of course, as many of you already know, as a heavy tank. It was basically we had this, and it could match up with Tigers. Well, actually, we had a couple of these. Not very many of them, but we had a couple. But yeah, the Pershing itself was classified to basically take on Tiger tanks, and it didn't really get to do that too much. It got to take on a few Panthers, maybe a few Tigers, but they didn't really see very much service, even though we actually developed them early on in the war. General Patton, he preferred the Sherman tanks, and so basically he just was like, no, we're not using those tanks, we're going to use the Shermans, because they were cheaper to make, and you could make more of them. And American tank doctrine at that time was that it was easier to replace crews than it was tanks, which meant that, sorry, crews, you got the short end of the stick. Anyways, we'll go ahead and go into another match with the Centurion 7.1, and we'll try our luck, see if we can do a little bit better. Yeah, sorry about the congestion. Yeah. Sometimes I just wake up like this. It's a real pain. This will be my longest video that I've ever uploaded. Seconds, pray for the 45. So yeah, as you can see here, we're in a very typical match for a Centurion 7.1. You might have a lot of tier 9s, but you will have tier 10s. And fortunately, the tier 10 that we got and the tier 10 that they got didn't match up. I would rather not have to fight a Object 263, or actually no, I rather wouldn't fight an Object 263 at any time. And also a lot faster. A lot faster. But we have the FV215B183, which is what I'd rather not have to face off against, because if he were to manage a direct hit on my hull, it would be goodbye Centurion. Which I actually think is a little bit funny, given, I mean, I guess he does shoot an AP shell, but if he was shooting at a high explosive shell, the Centurion Mark III actually underwent a test where they detonated a nuclear bomb 500 meters away from it. See, the nuclear bomb blasted the Centurion about 5 meters backwards. Oh gosh, that was not smart. Okay. Well, as you can see, the Centurion saved me from my moment of supreme derpitude. Unfortunately, though, we've also landed ourselves in a duel against a VK-4502B and what looks to be an IS-7 in the back. Thankfully, though, we have our STB-1 here to help. Unfortunately, it's going to be harder and harder to get shots on this 4502B. As you can see, sometimes, he said, yeah, this tank could be a very fun tank to play. It also be a very painful tank to play. Whenever they manage to get shots like that in. Let's see, where'd that one even hit? Yeah, there's actually a little bit of a hole in the armor where they can actually still penetrate you easily on the side. It's a pain. But if you basically are careful with it, then it usually won't be too much of an inconvenience. Alright, well, it seems like these guys have generally just basically got out of dodge. We found ourselves a new friend to play with by the name of a 57 Heavy, who happens to be firing heat rounds, as you can hear from that iconic sizzle. Oh, and it would also seem that the IS-7 has decided to come and play. Well, I'm going to go ahead and use one of the Centurion 7-1's other strengths, and I'm going to back up. I'm going to run away. See, I should be able to survive his onslaught if I work together with my... Nope. Ah! And the 57 Heavy seems to have fucked us. Thank you to our KV-4. Well, this match does not seem to have gone very well for me, or for that STB-1. But it, it wasn't a bad match either. As you can see up at the top, I got 1,978 damage. That's not bad. In a Centurion, it should be about your average to get over 2,000. Which kind of means that if you're not, then you're kind of doing something. But sometimes the matches are just not kind to you. This was one of those matches. Whenever you have to fight an IS-7 all of a sudden, and they get the drop on you, it's not fun. And I'm going to have to cut that out of the video because, thanks guys. Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yes. See, I don't like that stuff. So let's see. I'd spam, display date, accept notifications, remember position camera, channel windows. Nope. You know what? I'm actually gonna go ahead and do this. There we go. Yep. As you can see, our IS-8 is also not having a very good time. This match seems to have just gone, well, all wrong. All wrong. Because they're murdering us now, unfortunately. This IS-7's gonna get the drop on the IS-8. And all we're left with is Lorraine 15551. Unfortunately, though, he's killed somebody, but it doesn't look like he's done too much after that, considering where he's holed up. It doesn't look like he should be able to even shoot at them from there. Well, either way, this will be over soon, most likely. As you can see there, 57 Heavy actually managed to get himself a Top Gun from this. And so, good on him. He was shooting heat rounds, but, yeah, fine. You know, everybody's allowed to shoot whatever kind of a shell that they want to. And that had to hurt. That had to hurt. Well, at least he didn't hide back there. That would have been... So, you know, we did alright. Let me see just about how we did. You know, we were 4th in damage on our team. We did have some pretty good players, like the 113, the STB-1, and the IS-8. They all did pretty well. In fact, that IS-8, as you can see, he did almost 4,000 damage, which would have placed him on number 3 on their team. STB also would have been number 3 on their team, doing 300 damage more, as well as the 113 would have been number 3 on their team, doing about 30 more damage. But still, very good on them. You know, that was not a bad match. It was a fun match. We got to have a lot of fighting, a lot of killing, a lot of being killed very painfully, and a lot of hiding from IS-7s. So, let's go ahead and do, well, yeah, let's go ahead and do one more video. So, or one more battle. Maybe we'll be able to get a good battle in, one that we won't lose. I'd rather not end this video on really, really bad. Well, another one of those rare matches. In fact, this one is seeming to be even more rare. We seem to have an advantage on their top tiers. I don't usually put too much stock into the mod that I use, which is XVM. But how difficult this match is to win. And from the way it looks like this battle is going to be a fairly good battle. You know, not too bad anyways. So, we are going to go ahead, and of course, since we're not a heavy tank or a tank destroyer, we're not going to go over here. We're most likely going to go over here, maybe over here if we can get there without getting shot up, which may actually be a possibility. And if we can actually get over there, we'll have a bit of an advantage, given that we're a top-tier medium tank, and we've got a very, very nice and scary gun to put into the faces of all of our enemies. The only problem that would keep us from being able to get over there is the fact that we're only going 40 kilometers an hour. Which would basically, you know, we're not going too much slower than that 34-1, but it could hurt. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. Get a T-67, and looks like I lucked out. All of the enemy tanks are still on the other side of that little hill, and I was spotted by that T-67, but that is all. As you see, our 1390 is already pushed up, and I'm going to push over here. It may not be very smart. Let's see. Doesn't seem that I was spotted doing that. Oh dear.
We're immobilized. They killed our driver. Get going.
Yep. Unfortunately, he killed my driver, so I had to burn my first aid kit. So I'm gonna want to be very careful because this is about as far as I can push up without really having to put myself in danger, because there's a Yag Tiger sitting somewhere straight out there, and this 54 has that guy for support.
Enemy armor is damaged.
So I'm basically gonna have to play a pretty dangerous game of peekaboo with this guy. Our Amex 1390 is having a little spat with an enemy over there. As you can see, the Centurion 7-1 actually does have an advantage. Oh. Okay, well, as it would seem, the enemy, they just killed our 1390. Not entirely sure how, but that is not a good thing, and it means that I need to start thinking about getting out of Dodge. See, they don't have anybody to come over here anymore now that their T-54 is dead, but they do have people who can...
Target acquired.
There we
Enemy
go.
armor is destroyed.
That deals with that problem to a degree. And now the main problem is to get out before their artillery basically drops a dookie on me. So as you can see, one of the advantages of driving a tank with a very high horsepower to weight ratio is that you can pull off maneuvers like this, where you can pull forward and pull back very effectively. In fact, that's one of the advantages that most Russian medium tanks have, because they almost all have high horsepower to weight ratios. Now. Uh-oh. There's a SU-152. It didn't seem to notice me. Alright, so then it seems that I'm in the clear for those guys. There's an IS-8
Target acquired.
right over
Enemy
there.
armor is damaged.
So we're just gonna make him sweat.
Critical
Ah,
hit.
I only got a critical. But I hit him, and he shot, and he did not get me.
Enemy is hit.
Ooh, did get me that time.
Ricochet.
Fortunately, I hit the guy in the turret that time. Looks like he's gonna start trying to push up the hill, which I'm cool with. You know? I'm cool with that.
Enemy armor is damaged. Target acquired.
As you can see,
Target
this is
unlocked.
not a very advantageous position for him. Nope. Now, many people would be tempted to jump over that hill. I'm not. And there we go. So we've dealt ourselves with an IS-8, a 1390, and a T-54 so far. Well,
We didn't even scratch
whew!
them.
Wonder if that was a heat round or an HE shell. Not sure. Either way, I wouldn't have wanted to get hit by that one. So, since he does not have the ability to come out and shoot me, I don't know what happens there. For some reason it just wants to make my okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get myself behind here. And I'm gonna pull up, and I'm gonna see you. Fire, and apparently he saw me
Track
first.
hit. Enemy is hit. We didn't penetrate their armor. Enemy armor is hit.
As you can see, our friend the SU-152 is not having a very good day. Good. Oh, seems he was firing
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
armor-piercing rounds out of that derp gun of his. Well, to each his own. If he had actually managed to hit me, that probably would have made me very hurt Centurion. Maybe not dead, but very hurt. As it seems, we scored a high caliber. But it wasn't a bad match. You know, got a nice bunch of the easy medals. Yeah, 3576, and I might be a bit off on that. It might have required about 3600. I forgot what it said it required. But yeah, not a bad match. In fact, I'd venture to say that was a pretty good match. Let's see. How much experience did I get? Yeah, I got 3428, the times 2, and 60,000 credits. Now that is a way to end a match. That's a way to end your video. That is a way to end your day. But, well, not but. Anyways, I got a few other things just to say. You know, as you can see, the Centurion 7.1 is just, in general, a very good tank. The playstyle that you're going to want to employ with it, it's got 3 different types of playstyles that you can really do. If you want to engage your enemy frontally, then you're going to have to do side scraping. Or if you can get a nice hold down spot very close to them, those are your 2 options. Hold down or side scraping if you want to take them on frontally. If you want to be getting in shots on their side armor, then of course peekaboo is your answer. Of course, again, if you can get a hold down, that always helps. But peekaboo is your answer, so you can play as a flanker, you can even play as a brawler, and finally, you can play this tank as a sniper. As I said, it has a .32 accuracy, which is extremely accurate. A lot of really good guns, like this one, have a .35. I probably shouldn't be using this one since it's an American gun, but it has .38. Of course, this one is not going to be very good. It's got a .38. The only gun that I actually own in my entire garage that is more accurate than this cannon on the Centurion 7.1 is the gun on the E50M, which is of course a .3. Even the gun on the E4, which is a tank destroyer and therefore, you know, a sniper, is still a .37, which is actually good. It's actually a very good, accurate gun. But the .32 accuracy on this gun means that it missing a shot doesn't usually happen. It usually hits a target when it puts its mind to hitting a target. As long as you allow it to aim in, you can usually hit anything at any range. However, if you don't let it aim in, then be expecting to miss at least a few of your shots. You don't actually have to let it aim in whenever you're in close range, because as I said, British stabilizers, as well as the fact that I've put a stabilizer in and vents, basically just, it's very, very nice to not have to deal with, missing, because whenever you do hit with this gun, the 268 penetration will lend itself to penetrating just about any tank in the game. My one main caveat against this tank is that its main ammunition and its regular high explosive ammunition are both Hesh rounds. I have never been a big fan of Hesh rounds except for on the 183 because they have less penetration. They're doing HE damage, which means that I'm pretty sure they don't normalize unless they're Hesh. Maybe Hesh does normalize, but they're doing HE damage, which means that you could get like 100 damage on a given shot, which I'm not cool with that. You know, I can penetrate a hit if I'm using the APCR ammunition. The only really tanks that are good with the Hesh on the British line are sometimes the 215B, because it does have good Hesh rounds. It gets, or does it even shoot Hesh rounds? It might not even shoot Hesh rounds. I don't know, let me see. It shoots, armor piercing, composite, rigid, and high explosive. So no, actually, I could have sworn I remember the 215B actually rounds. It does not. It gets APCR for its top ammunition. But the 215B183, of course, it gets 230 penetration on its hash rounds, and they also do 1,750 damage, which points as a Centurion 7.1 has, which is why I said if one of those were to hit me on the hole, that 230 is almost twice as much as the thickness of my hole, and it does a full 1,750, which is 30 points more than I have hit points. So I don't like fighting 215Bs. I really don't. Unless I'm in an IS-4. Then I'm willing to fight them. I'm always willing to fight them in an IS-4. But if I'm in this tank, I generally want to avoid them. So, this video has been about 40 minutes long so far. This is going to be the longest video I've ever uploaded. So I am going to go ahead and leave you guys. Thank you. Remember to subscribe. Remember to put an APCR round right into that like button. And thank you again for watching. This is Desktop Strategist, signing